Ladies and gentlemen, it is really nice to see people in these chambers. It's not often where we have a few and then our staff, so thank you for being here. We are met as a city council. It is January 10th, 2025, and we're going to begin. I think before I do the roll call, I want to make sure that everybody understands who is present here, so it might be a little bit duplicitous. So we have a council member Hunter, John, Carol, and Taylor, and we have on phone here council member Holly, and I'm going to just put this up for you, council member Holly, if you want to just say where you're at, what time it is, I mean, whatever you want to do to explain to these people. It's pretty neat.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. So I'm Councilmember Hawley here. I am doing my Marine Reserve drill that I have to do every summer, and I'm over in Stuttgart, Germany, beautiful Stuttgart, Germany, and it is a wonderful 3 a.m. in the morning on Wednesday here. So that's where I am. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. That will be for on the public record. So we're going to begin with a public hearing, and we'll just take these one by one. There's 3 items, but we'll take them one by one. When I see that one is done, I'll move on to the other. So let's just, rather than everybody, let's just take them singular. So first of all, we're here to receive public comment on a code text amendment of section 9.15.010 titled Public Disturbances. In essence, we are considering moving the time that we can begin at parks to 6 a.m. And so if you'd like to make public comment, we'd have you come forward and state your name for the public record, and we'd ask you to keep your comments to about 2 minutes, please. So. And I will say this, I mean, if you're not, hey, I don't want to go up there, if it's something similar and you just say, boom, we're pretty good.
You say ditto? I don't think this is going to go any higher, but you can hear me, I think, okay. I'm Steve Lemon. I appreciate the time, Mayor Frost, members of the City Council. Myself and the large group that you see behind you are pickleball players, and I know that's unusual because nobody plays pickleball in this city, but we have been, I live very close to Henley Park, about a block away, maybe a little bit less than a block away. And we were so grateful for the park and for the pickleball facility. It's just changed the entire dynamic of that park and just brought it to life. And so you can go there any night and you can see courts are full and people are having a good time. I'm even surprised a lot of younger people show up, and it's kind of a hangout and they're respectful and it's great. So first, thank you for building the park. For a lot of us, we have work that requires us to be gone by 7 a.m. And so the only time we can find time to play pickleball at Henley is from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And a lot of us have recognized when it first opened, that was sort of a unofficial, I guess, standard. And then through a series of events, that was shut down. We've tried several times to go at 6 a.m., but have had the police called. And we're all mostly law-abiding citizens, and so that's a little frightening for some of us that don't usually run into the police. And so we decided to take a more official stance and to appeal to you in hopes that the public disturbance ordinance could be changed to allow for a 6 a.m. start. The park is such a great, and there's only really 2 times that it's the busiest, obviously the morning before people work and then at night. So I think others have similar things. I know that I have gone down to Art Dye after we were asked to leave multiple times, and I was speaking with Jill this morning. She was down there yesterday. By 6:15 there was 9 or 10 people waiting to play, and by 6:20 or 6:25 there were 18 people in line. So if you go to Art Dye, which was it doesn't quite work. After that I've tried Discovery over in Pleasant Grove trying it. But anyway, thank you. We look forward to hopefully having the ordinance changed.
Thank you.
Maybe easier just to say, raise your hands, who agrees with that?
I was going to get there. I'm going to say, does anybody else do they have a different opinion or expression that they would like to make that would come forward? If not, I'm happy to do a show of, okay?
I just wanted to say thank you because the bathroom that was put in there stopped public children from coming to my home before 8 on a Saturday and soccer games and knocking on my door and saying, "Can we use your bathroom?" So thank you for that upgrade as well.
Thank you. All right. Okay, go ahead, and if everybody just raise their hand if they feel like they're just in accordance with what was said. For the record, I'm just going to say I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15. There's roughly 20 people that have their hands up.
And ma'am, can we get your name?
Oh yeah, Tammy Lemon.
Okay.
Tammy Lemon?
Tammy Lemon was.
And
is
are you
good
a
for the
resident, Tammy?
bathrooms.
I am.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other public comment on the ordinance, our noise ordinance? Okay, we'll move on to item number 2. It's a public comment on the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026 city budget. We'd invite you to come forward at this time. Again, state your name for the public record. Love to hear from you.
Please do so in an orderly fashion.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, and that is on the public hearing, receive public comment on fiscal year 2026 American Fork Municipal Officers Compensation Increase.
Can we bring some clarity to this for everyone?
Yeah, I'm going to have, if you would just mind telling them why it's here, not that there's a change, but it's required. David, why don't you paraphrase it for us?
Mayor and Council, so the state legislature passed an ordinance, a law, saying that cities had to identify the increases for public officers in the city. So that is specifically identified in our budget, and that would include any of our officers, including the treasurer, the city administrator, assistant city administrator, and also public officials. So we have to identify that in our budget.
I'm going to say on the public record too that staff, we expect them to see a raise. Everybody up on this side of there is no compensation increase for elected officials.
That's the clarity we were.
That's what we were looking for right there.
Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. We'll move on to our regular session. We'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance, after which we'll have an invocation by Councilmember John, and then I will conduct the roll call. If everybody please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, as we come before Thee, as the officials and council member and mayor of American Fork City, we're grateful for the opportunity that we have to meet with our residents and hear their concerns. Father, we're grateful for this way of government that we're able to directly report to our citizens and be held accountable. Father, we ask that Thou would bless our city staff, especially our first responders. Be with them, keep them safe. Watch over them and their families. Father, we ask that Thou would bless our residents as we are traveling during this construction season, that they will take care and be careful and watch the workers and not have any incidences with them. Father, we're grateful for the moisture we've received this year, and we pray that Thou would help us to use it wisely, to do the conservation we need to, and to be able to use this precious resource as Thou hast given us. And Father, we pray now that Thou would watch over us, guide our actions and thoughts this evening, that we might be fair and equitable and be able to make the decisions in a manner that is pleasing unto Thee. And these things we pray for. In the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay. I'll now conduct the roll call. Councilmember Hunter.
Here, Mayor.
Councilmember Holly. Okay. Councilmember John.
Here.
Councilmember Carroll.
Here.
Councilmember Tater.
Here.
Okay, item number 2, I'm going to move right over here with that.
Donuts spun there. You got it?
Just turn it around. I think there's a perception with many that being the mayor is a full-time job, and I'm here to tell you it is not. Everybody up here works full-time jobs, and this is pretty much a labor of love. There's certainly a stipend, and with that, it becomes imperative to run a city that's so diverse with so many different things. If you think about it, water, everybody expects that water. You got a rec center and everything in between. It's running a city is very, very interesting if you just put it in a corporate sense, and how everybody expects, as we do as elected officials, to be the best and to be efficient. And so in order to accomplish that, you have to have wonderful people. And we have what I think is the best city manager in the state of Utah. In so much that we actually nominated him. And this is not a surprise to him. He has received this award. It was in St. George, but we wanted to bring it closer to home. We wanted him to receive this in his own city. So this, in effect, is kind of a re-award, I guess, of that. So to do that, we have the people that we appealed to, and that is Ken Leatham and Andy Welch. They are part of the Utah City Managers Association. So with that being said, I'm going to let you guys take it from there. I have some things behind me we can use, okay?
Well, thank you, Mayor Frost. And as he said, we are board members. Andy and I are board members of the Utah City and County Management Association. We have some things to say about David, but I thought I would acquaint you, especially since you have the public here, a little bit with what that association does and what our International City Management Association does also. The purpose of our association is to increase knowledge and the ability of local government administrators and managers, to promote the exchange of information between members, to support the functions and aims of the association, and most importantly today, to promote the concept of professional local government management. And I appreciate what Mayor Frost said about elected mayors and elected officials who are volunteering their time mostly on behalf of residents of their community, and work together as a team with paid professional staff. I thought I'd share just briefly, there's three core beliefs. There's 7 core beliefs of ICMA, which is the International City Management Association. 3 of those are worth noting for all of us. The first is public service, and it includes a very serious stewardship of democratic principles, and especially the efficient and transparent use of public resources, which is what your city council and mayor and city staff is all about. Ethics is a core principle, and David Bunker sets an example of ethics, as does the mayor and the elected officials. But I know David, and I don't know that there's anybody better than David that you could look to find almost perfect ethics. I say almost because maybe there's something I don't know about you, but he has great ethics, and so your city's in fine hands with David on that, in that way. And then finally, the ICMA promotes professional local government management, and that's one of their core principles. So let me get on with this award a little bit.
You know, with that, I'm going to have David come up.
Yeah, David, why don't you come up? Because we'll talk about you a little bit. It's important maybe for the elected officials to know this award program was created by the Utah City and County Management Association to really recognize excellence in public government leadership. It recognizes great character, as I mentioned, ethics, and a person who demonstrates solid core values and especially leadership competencies, which David certainly has done. The process we used for choosing the award began with soliciting nominations from elected officials. And your mayor, we're going to read your nomination here in a moment. Your mayor nominated David Bunker. He said some wonderful things about David. There were 10 very qualified and well-deserving local government leaders that were nominated for this award. And one was disqualified because it was a board member. It wasn't me and it wasn't Andy. People don't love us enough to nominate us, but a different board member got nominated. So 3 current board members, including Andy and I, we were on the nominating selection group. We also had 2 really wise retired city managers that evaluated all 10, and David Bunker was the clear winner for this award. One of the key qualifications in my mind for this award is dedication to the profession and integrity while leading a local government organization. I've known David for many years. I used to be a city manager here in Utah County at a nearby city, and we met many years ago. And I recognized then that David was just a great professional, and he was also working for a different community then, but has done a wonderful job in American Fork. He's the type of leader who shows great resolve, dedication, tenacity, skill, wisdom, responsiveness, and above all, I think he sincerely cares about the needs of the citizens of American Fork. So it's an honor for Andy and I to be here today on behalf of the Utah City Management Association to recognize David as the 2025 Manager of the Year. And as the mayor said, David was previously recognized by his peers in April at the UCMA conference, and Mayor Frost was there also. We appreciate your attendance there, and I'll turn it over to Andy to read your nomination, if that's okay. That was so great.
Yeah, it's good to be here as well. My name is Andy Welch. I'm actually the Tooele County manager, and so when you started off today, it made me feel really good because you guys are right in the middle of the budget. Ours is a calendar year, so we were 6 months off. I feel your pain, so thank you that's a lot of work to get to what you're doing today, so thank you so much. And I'm a new county manager. I just moved back to Utah 4 years ago. I lived in Georgia for 25 years, and I was a part of the association there as well. It's so good to be back here and meet good people like David. So we have just met the last few years, actually, at conferences. And so, but as was mentioned, the mayor wrote a letter, and I'd like to read that letter for the recommendation for this. So this was, Dear UCMA Selection Committee, it is my great honor to nominate David Bunker, City Administrator of American Fork City, for the 2025 UCMA City Manager of the Year Award. David is not just a city administrator, he is the driving force behind American Fork's transformation into a thriving, well-managed city. His leadership, vision, and commitment to excellence make him highly deserving of this recognition. Under David's tenure, American Fork has prioritized community engagement and responsiveness to public input. In his first year with the city, David implemented an annual survey to ensure residents' voices shaped city policies. Responding to their input, David has guided city resources toward the desired physical and social infrastructure. In terms of social infrastructure under David, we have added over 40 acres of essential park space, a 3-acre regional dog park, 12 pickleball courts, which was mentioned earlier, and completed the long-awaited Marion Art Dye Sports Complex, a project 35 years in the making. He has been instrumental in expanding Steel Days into the largest and most vibrant city celebration ever. Additionally, his leadership in rebranding our city helped to enhance its image, fostering a renewed sense of community pride. David has also been instrumental in managing growth in physical infrastructure. During his tenure, American Fork has incrementally increased its investment in roads, our residents' #1 priority. As it stands today, American Fork has made its largest ever investment in road improvements. Additionally, with a major river running through American Fork City, David's leadership during the city's first major flood season since 1984 protected the community in a potentially perilous time. Financially, under David's sound stewardship, American Fork has maximized city fund balance, ensuring long-term fiscal stability and sustainability. Additionally, American Fork has also secured the highest GO bond, which is a government general obligation bond rating possible for a city of our size. Beyond city development, David is a steadfast advocate for employees. He established an employee appreciation program to foster recognition and improve morale. Known for his tireless work ethic, David is always available to support staff, elected officials, and residents, often working late to meet the city's needs. His leadership is hands-on, whether poring over engineering plans in the office or out in a storm, helping our storm drain division solving flood emergencies. David's impact is not just about individual projects. Many cities have similar initiatives. What sets him apart is that he has driven all these advancements himself, where in other communities they take decades and multiple city managers to achieve. David is perpetually proactive, choosing what is right over what is easy. He is creative in problem solving, cost saving, and efficiency improvements. His unwavering commitment to American Fork sets a gold standard for city management. For these reasons and more, I wholeheartedly recommend David Bunker for this distinguished award. Sincerely, Brad Frost.
So we'll give David again these awards he received in April. So come on in here, Andy, and the mayor. Don't forget this one. Yeah, don't forget. And this is one the board really felt strongly about.
I think if we mention it, that's a travel.
Yeah, the next city manager of the year gets this.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thanks for letting us come there. Appreciate your time tonight.
Mind if I just let's have you shake the council's hand?
Congratulations.
If I could just say just a couple things.
Speech.
If that's all right. First of all, Ken and Andy, thank you for coming tonight and representing this award. That was very kind of you. I know you guys have a lot to do. You're city and county managers too, so I know your schedules are very hectic as well. I really appreciate the Utah City Manager Association. They are full of incredible people who I really look up to and I learn so much from. Honestly, there's so many managers who are qualified to receive this exact award. And so it's very humbling to be able to receive it from peers, honestly. And so thank you for that. Mayor and council, thank you. I love working with you. I can't think of a better job to do. It's not even a job to me. It's something that I just love to be involved in and love to do. And I grew up in American Fork, and I feel an obligation in a lot of sense to give back to the community that I grew up in. There's so many people in this city who affected me and shaped my life, especially as a wild teenager. There were times I needed, direction, and there were people in this city that gave me that direction. And so when I had the opportunity to come work at American Fork, that was one of the driving forces, is to give back to the community that helped shape me and help raise me, quite frankly. And so I love American Fork City. I love the residents that are here. I love working with the mayor and council and all the people that I get to work with. There's an amazing staff here. There was a list of accomplishments that were attributed to me, but honestly, without the staff that we have, those things would not be possible. Those things are not a one-person job. And so it's not just me, it's a whole litany of people that support and aid in everything that goes on in the city. So thank you to the staff. So I'm so blessed to be able to work with great people. I think it's finally rubbed off on me after all these years working with all these great people. And so that's really, that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to item number 3. We have a public hearing, but this is for anybody that would like to comment to the mayor, the council, our senior staff about anything in the city related to the noise ordinance or not. There might be people here that have concerns. We'd invite you to come forward at this time and state your name for the public record.
I'll go first. So my name's David Brailsford. I'm a resident here in American Fork, and some of you know me. I live at 386 North, 200 West, but I grew up here in American Fork, block south of the library. And as many of you know, the tragic event that happened this last Saturday at about 250 South Center, which many of you know as the old Fitzen home. So I reached out to Whit Fitzen, who's a childhood friend of mine, to express condolences and sympathy. And our conversation led to a topic I think is worthy for the mayor and city council. Before I forget, I want to thank each of you for all that you do to make this a wonderful city. The hard work you put in is much appreciated from the mayor and everyone on the city council. But anyway, our conversation was, I don't know if there's an opportunity, but if there is an opportunity for the city to somehow acquire that land and make addition to the park that already exists there, the Centennial Park, I think that would be good for the community, especially that part of the city, and it would draw a lot of people. The city has done an excellent job with, my experience is the cemetery just south of the main cemetery, in between the new and the old. That was beyond expectations. What a wonderful job. And I know that if it were possible for the city to acquire that land and extend that park north, including that property, because I think there are some historical things on that property, including the arches out front, a log cabin, a bungalow. The house is probably a total loss, and quite frankly, it's sad to see what has happened with the overgrowth. I'll just say I'm grateful for Afton Fitzen. I have spent lots of time there as a child, with Whit, and the experiences I had were very positive, but then Afton hired me after my mission from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to work weddings and receptions. And just to see the hard work that went into making that piece of property beautiful was amazing. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else that'd like to come forward? Okay, we will close the public comment period and we'll move on to our city administrator's report. David?
Thank you, Mayor. Along the lines of discussing that event that happened, the fire at Fitzen, I just want to give a big thanks and shout out to the agencies who support us, our neighbors in public safety. So as you know, last week was the Cedar Hills Family Festival, and that is an event that takes a lot of our public safety up to Cedar Hills as we help them with that event, their city celebration. So a lot of our crews were pretty busy that week, and so we had to call on our neighbors, Lehigh, Pleasant Grove, Lone Peak, to come assist in that event with that fire. And they showed up, did a great job. They're so willing to support American Fork, as we are them. I think the mutual aid agreement that we have with our neighbors is a great thing, but I just publicly want to let those agencies know how much we appreciate their assistance in times like that. And we sure that's not a great thing to have to call on neighbors to come help us on events like that, but it sure is nice that they're there. So that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Now move on to council reports, and we'll start with Councilmember Hunter.
Mayor, thank you. I love that I get to go first most of the time because you guys are going to probably respond with ditto, but I don't even remember if we've been back since. It's still on my mind, having gone to the Memorial Day stuff, and everything from. Anyway, I I think I did talk about it already, but it's still on my mind. I love what we do for recognizing those who put others before self, and that's what we're talking about with the fire department recently, and the things that they pulled off. I remember I grew up down on that end of town as well. I used to always joke about being on the south side of town, and mom and dad still lived down there, but that, I mean, I remember working in at Fitzon's Gardens. That's probably one of the first memories I have of being with the fire AFFR, with the fire and ambulance team, the EMTs and such. We doing the haunted house there, and working that. It was a fundraiser for the fire rescue guys, and I remember taking tickets, and then I was scaring people half to death, walking around in black, and I don't know. There was a 20-foot python there. There was a dude that was, I don't know if it was because I was 4.5 feet tall at the time or what, but I remember there was a guy that was dressed like Frankenstein, and I think he'd broke both arms or something, but he was wandering around and he had his arms in casts and he was stuck like that. It was like the perfect deal, but it is one of those iconic things, right? And there's so many people. For years I've watched people comment about that property and what it means, and at any rate, my heart goes out to those family members, because everything from their fur babies that didn't make it, but the real there's memories. There's a lot of memories and a lot of community memories in that location, and I just want to thank those that were able to save literally life in that situation, and all due to a passerby, right? It's pretty impressive. So I just that's crossed my mind as well. I don't know. Obviously, there's so much that it's got to be made available too. But it'd be cool, and I, for one, would love the opportunity to at least engage in that. See if there's an opportunity. Who knows, right? If there is, we'll see. But that's what, to me, going back to the Memorial Day thing, and that's the community. That's why we love American Fork, because it is more than just a place we all come home from work to. And in fact, it's more. I would be remiss if I didn't mention David. Speaking about community, he's the epitome of community. My biggest fear, long before I came on the council, watching the hours that David puts in, it makes me sick. It makes me worried that you'll burn yourself out, and I've talked to you about that pretty pointedly. You've done an amazing job, and the city's a better place because you're at the helm. And one of the things that didn't get brought up is the difference, at least maybe in these terms, but I talk about it all the time, about governing versus managing. And it's a big difference between our role in governing and David's team and his role of managing the city. And whether we end up being successful in a re-election going forward, I could care less, as long as there's a focus on that differentiation of position, because our job is to govern the affairs of the city, and David's job is to manage the affairs of the cities. And there's a significant difference, and David has done a fantastic job, and we hold him accountable for that, both in his successes and in his failures. And I could not be more proud of what you've done in 8+ years being at our helm. So thank you for what you've done. That's my report, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to Councilmember Holly.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't really have a whole lot, especially trying to talk on this. Don't want to take up a bunch of time, but just because I was gone a couple weeks ago, I want to say a big thanks to all those who ran the Memorial Day program, planned it, and made it happen, especially the cemetery committee that I'm a part of. So just really appreciate it every year, the work that goes into the Memorial Day program and the support it shows for the military people. And then also I do want to give congratulations and big thanks to David Bunker for all the work that he does in the city, and is very much a well-deserved award that he received. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you for that report. Councilmember John.
Thank you, Mayor. Ditto, David. Thank you for everything you do. And, when we do have an emergency in the middle of the night, yes, the city staff's out there and Sam's group of people are out there when the water mains break, but David is out there around the corner just keeping an eye on things. He doesn't jump in. He lets these people do their job, and if needs to, he would jump in, but he did that with the flooding. He still kept checking and watching, but he knew that he had the right people in place, and David, you did a great job. Thank you. I appreciate it. Mayor, I guess the Fitson home kind of brought home the fire, and then this morning as I was doing water turns, I happened upon 2 accidents in American Fork, just almost simultaneously. And we had police and fire responding to both of those. And I am the guy that's out all hours of the day and night doing my job, and they're out there all the time, and I see them. They're working hard. They don't get, I know we talk about them, but they always don't get a lot of credit. It's been a rough year with the construction. They've had some rough go on First East with the way the lane changes, and there's been some things happen there. And yes, it's going to be great when it's done, but they have really just done a phenomenal job of taking care of our residents in the hardest times that they see. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Carroll.
Thanks, Mayor. I missed our last meeting, so going on the theme of community, I did want to give a public kudos to some of our high school teams that in the last week of school were able to take state. And I know our soccer team has gotten a lot of regional recognition for their players. So a lot of the children or young adults in our community had a really good week, a really good season, and I wanted to give a public recognition of that. There was also baseball, rugby. What else was in that last week?
Track and
Tennis.
field for both male
Yeah,
and women.
yeah, that was earlier, but yeah, track and field, both
Yeah.
male and tennis.
The band just
And the
30 years
band.
straight, but yeah.
I mean, that's pretty awesome that we're able to have.
Rugby, that's not a sanctioned
So not
sport.
sanctioned, but I included rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a 6A record.
super awesome. Okay, the other, I had 2 quick things. What were they? Oh, I did want to mention, it really makes me happy that you, when you talked about Hindley Park, that you recognized that it was bringing life to the area, because we specifically as a council identified that park, well, not just the council, I would say the staff was very involved in this, but we identified that area as we wanted more there, and it makes me so happy that the residents enjoy it and that you see it there. So that's the other thing. And then the last thing is just a public congratulations to David. I've said private congratulations, but totally agree. This is such a differently managed city than it was when you came in 8 years ago. There's so many things that have been improved, particularly the way that we've been able to fund things and your budgeting abilities. It's really turned a lot of things around. So I get to be on this council where there's a lot of wins, and it's largely because of David. So thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Tater.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think it's interesting as we talk about pickleball, and I think there was something mentioned after that. When we started to do the park tax 11 years ago, 11 years ago, and going through that, one of the things that I continually pitched while I would talk to people about it was the restrooms. Because our parks didn't have any restrooms, unless you were Rotary Park. Beehive had 2 old ones that were shut down, but the restrooms we've made, and you think of them, the ones at Art Dye, the ones now at Hindley, the ones at the Quail Cove and Kimberly, and they're just fantastic, and it's great. And so that's just a big upside to the fact that you don't have kids running into your house to use the restroom, because they probably tried to steal some Twinkies and stuff at the same time. That's just one of the great benefits. And again, it's community. Community came and said, you know what, we'll absorb that extra 1/10 of 1 cent to be able to have these funds to be able to do what we've been able to do, and it's been absolutely fantastic for our community. So I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you being here and remaining here and voicing. And you know what else I appreciate? I appreciate the one person stands up and gives it and everyone's good with the ditto. We've sat here nights before where people come up and say the same thing over and over again. We're thinking, hey, we got it. We're thick, but we're not that thick. So that was good. So anyway, thank you all for that and for being here and for participating. And then finally, my congratulations to David as well. I really appreciate all that he does. He and I have many conversations. He helps me with so many things because I'm more remedial than the rest of the council. So David helps me out quite a bit with
with those things. But he is a giant among men, and he does a tremendous job. And I love that American Forks is home, and that he's stepping up the way he does, and he does an absolutely incredible job. And I don't need to go on anymore because he'll struggle to get his head through the door when he gets home anyway tonight. But we'll give Laura a call, tell her to prepare for that, pop open the garage door or something. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. For the mayor's report, I just left it on the field with David. It was fun to go up and actually surprise him. Council Taylor and I, we had him fooled. He didn't know what we were doing there, and and then it was made aware, and it was neat. And so, well-deserved. I think David and I interact daily, maybe several times a day, sometimes till 1 in the morning. It's just, it works. And when you talk about community, it's my favorite word. It's what I feel when we're here in American Fork. And a couple events that I just wanted to talk about, because I think it's community. And I know one of them is maybe something that was uncomfortable or not good, but it was community. And that was the fire. In the fact that I received a text from the chief that there was something going on there, and he gave me the address, and I threw it in Google Maps. Well, the address he gave me was across the street. And then I noticed in a channel, one of the channels posted, and I thought, that is the Fitzen home. And I verified with him that it was. And I watched social media kind of mourn over that, what was happening. And I went down and I was talking to our guys, and they were just cleaning up, and I'll tell you what, they were spent. Our crew was spent. Everybody had gone home. They had fought that fight, and all their training, their physical conditions, everything about it, they were spent. And we had officers at the roads. We had our fire truck there, and they were just kind of rolling out and just thinking, okay, they're going to get into air conditioning. And I thanked them all. And it's a community that we're there on the good days, and we're there on the bad days. Your community is. And to David, they had Fork Fest. That was on the docket to our law enforcement and to our fire department. We had services there, and then Cedar Hills. And to take something like that in the middle of all that and to be ready, and as their motto says, always ready, they absolutely pulled it off. And as soon as they pulled over there, they pivoted to go back where they were. Last night I was at a neat little thing. Miss American Fork left this morning to go compete with Miss Utah. So she's in Salt Lake and will be for a few days. And we took the fire truck and our police, and we went, and her mother orchestrated a little surprise for her. And this block, there was a lot of people, maybe 50. She comes in, and she saw her community. She saw her neighbors, her friends, people that, church. And then she saw fire trucks and policemen. And I thought, wherever they go, they drive community with them. And she felt it to the point of being emotional. And so American Forks, I have rose-colored glasses on, but I think it's a pretty great place because of community. And so that is the mayor's report. Thank you. We'll move on now to our common consent agenda. It consists of 8 items. For the record, there have been some changes on just some on minutes for May 6th. You have them. And so in that motion, if you would just maybe just make mention of the edited minutes of May 6th. Any questions?
Mayor, I would move approval of the common consent agenda, noting the changes to the minutes of the May 6, 2025 work session.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Taylor, second by Councilmember Hunter. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember John?
Aye.
Councilmember Holly?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter?
Aye.
Okay, item number 1. We're pulling from our public hearing today, and that is review and action on an ordinance approving a code text amendment for sections 9.15.0 9.10, known as disturbing the peace, and sections 9.15.020, known as exemptions to public disturbances. I think we can, it's simple enough to say that we're in public parks. We're lowering the time that you can start. It's not that you can make all the noise in the world. You still have to adhere to a certain decibel, but it now can start at 6 o'clock. And we felt it was important to protect the environment of Fox Hollow Golf Course. They cannot operate during the day because of the high demand, and they have been operating just fine at night, but we see neighbors, and we just thought we better get out in front of something before you live by a golf course. It's important you know that they have to operate sometimes at night to take care of the need. So, any questions or comments from council?
Mayor, I would motion that we approve the ordinance approving a code text amendment for section 9.15.010, known as disturbing the peace, and section 9.15.020, known as exemptions to public disturbances.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Tater, second by Councilmember Hunter. Any discussion on this?
That was Councilmember John.
Oh, John, excuse me.
If I could, Mayor?
Yeah.
I bet against the pickleball courts when the pickleball courts went in. I'm, like I said, I'm the guy that's out all hours of the day and night, and I'd have the cops chase me through the weeds at Art Dye Park when I was out doing my job, wondering what I was doing there. And when we went to put the pickleball courts in, we actually had an irrigation ditch there, and I thought, what are we doing? This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And boy, I'm so glad I was wrong. But, you know, I've been doing this job, the day and night thing, for like 12 years. And I've seen a real change. I would be out by myself in Art Dye Park at 5 and 6 in the morning. There'd be nobody around. But COVID, and there's been a lot of changes. Now, when I'm out at 6 a.m., there's a lot of people out. The dog parks, and so when I'm out around through our city and our neighboring cities, it's really changed in the last few years. So I think this is a good move, because the way we use our parks and the way people are out is different than it was a decade ago. So this is a good move.
All right. I have a motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Hunter?
Aye.
Councilmember John?
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember Holly?
Aye.
Councilmember Tater?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 2 is review and action on an ordinance approving a code text amendment for section 13.94.040, known as Stormwater System Design and Management Standards of the American Fork City Municipal Code. Thank you, Sam, for coming up. Maybe just give us a little overview of this.
Thank you, Mayor. The code text amendment for this ordinance, basically, what staff had proposed to Planning Commission were to add requirements related to individual Lot D tension/retention systems. We wanted to be able to have those put on the plat map so that people know that if they're buying a lot and part of that is supposed to retain water on there, that they're aware of that so that they don't come in and modify their landscape. The other one was to clarify that that property owners need to be aware of their runoff on their property going from one to the other during storm events, irrigation. And then also we wanted to clarify some geotechnical references in there for when we have to have the terms on geotech report. We've had a few of our developments that came through, and they're on their final phase, and that geotech report is around 5 to 6 years old. We'd like to have those reports to be a little bit newer, and also where they go to do their bore tests for their infiltration, that they're in the spots where they would actually put sumps and things like that in there. And there was a comment made to a planning commission to modify some of the language pertaining to the piping of ditches. That did not make this set in the agenda, but maybe Heather can speak a little bit to that. Just there was a councilman that made a motion and added some language that staff isn't necessarily in support of, just because we already have in there that we'd like to have ditch owners to understand what's happening if they're going to pipe it. We don't necessarily want to give them the authority to approve someone's development and actually hold them hostage or keep them from actually developing, which I think the way you read that, it kind of leaves it that someone could actually do that, and that wasn't the intent, but maybe Heather can speak to that.
Yeah, no, Sam, I think you did a really good job of summarizing it. The language that was proposed specifically to section 13.94.040, subsection A4, was some language that was paraphrased this way, that along with notification signatures from the downstream ditch owners or their representatives, they should be required, the applicant, the developer should be required to prove that the landowners were notified and that they agreed to the terms. I think staff was concerned about downstream, a couple of concerns. Downstream owners being able to weigh in on a development that was already, has a requirement to ensure that their right to that water is protected. I think that was the paramount issue that they were worried about. And then application of this by the developer in the city from the perspective of how far down, how far do we have to contact just the enforcement of this provision would have been difficult, if not unworkable. So I think those were the concerns of staff, and that was the language that was proposed in the Planning Commission, but staff is not recommending the adoption of that particular language.
Okay, question on that. I would assume that people have water rights already, and that's pretty clearly defined. How does that mix with what he proposed?
He being staff or?
No,
what?
Franson.
Or Franson, Mr.
Yeah.
Franson. And I wasn't at the Planning Commission meeting, so I can't speak directly to that. But I think the provisions that are currently in place will allow the developer to at least make a reasonable inquiry, whether it be to irrigation companies, and actually maybe Councilmember Johns could speak to this, or John could speak to this better than I could. But to make some type of reasonable inquiry to put everyone on notice, to let them know, hey, this is happening, this is a development that's going to go forward. If you've got concerns about how the water is being handled on this particular property, you're going to have an opportunity to contact city staff and let them know, or the developer. So does that answer your question?
I think so. I guess I'm thinking like already when we do development, you can't stop downstream because you have. So I'm wondering like why he would want that provision in there to have permission from them, because if they were changing the flow, that wouldn't be allowed. Am I assuming correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct, yeah. I mean, if you're a downstream user and a development is happening upstream, we would still ensure that that person downstream is going to be made whole. Now, it might be routed around, but whatever their allotment of water, they would still be able to get that. And that's what we still want to have happen, but we don't necessarily want another reason for them to say, well, I don't like how it's being done, so I'm not going to sign off. And that's the situation we don't want to have happen.
Okay.
Because we do want to make sure that they're made whole.
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
If I may, Mayor, the irrigation companies are pretty easy because these are prescriptive easements that have been around, and so that's pretty easy. Where it really gets difficult is the south side of town, because you've got sloughs down there. What you have is what's called a gaining water ditch. You see them, those big old flat things, and a half a mile from the freeway they're not there, and then another half a mile you got a stream of water. So that's the stuff that comes, those are sloughs and springs, and that's where it gets really sticky. I agree with Sam, the language that we have in there, I don't think it needed changed, is good. I was actually dealing with one of these this week, and so it's all the people that are need to be informed are informed, but sometimes there's multiple owners of water down in there, and it's not an irrigation company, it's individual owners. But the language we have in there is more than adequate. The stuff that was proposed, I disagree with. It would have been very onerous and could have stopped it, and that's not what we want to do. We want to make sure the water users are whole, and we've worked really hard over the years to do that, and with the language we have, I'm comfortable.
Okay. Thanks, Ernie. That helps a lot.
Can I ask what is meant by made whole? You mentioned it could be rerouted. That was my comment, or question, I guess. I should have called and asked you this question in advance, but rerouting it, do we do a flow test prior to development? How is that done? Like, because I'm thinking in my mind, well, yeah, it'll get to you, but it'll be the end of your water turn by the time it finally gets there.
What would happen is, I guess the example that I look at is if there's a vacant parcel, someone wants to develop it, and the ditch that's conveying that water runs through right through the middle of it. So what would happen is then we would have to coordinate with the downstream users to make sure that whatever shares they have, whatever CFS, whatever that they're getting, that the design is going to have to meet that. So if they have to put in a 30-inch pipe, it's going to be flatter because it's going to go around, but it's still going to convey that amount of water, then that's what happens. It's going to make them whole. We don't want them, yes, you're going to have water, but it's going to be half of it. No, the fact of the matter is it's whatever you're getting now, you will get after it's developed too.
And that's my question is, so there is a cubic feet per second or something like that.
Right.
That is determined prior to the development, that then allows us to set the benchmark so that, because that was my concern. Okay, I got 40 acres that I'm going to develop. Instead of going straight through it, now I got to go, half a mile this way and around and back another half a mile with a new ditch. And by the time my water turns over, it took 3 hours to get there.
So it would just be that piece in the middle. If it's coming through, the developer would pick it up where it entered, route it around through, and then go down the same spot. You wouldn't have a different point of delivery to your property. You would still get it at the same spot.
Okay.
And the state legislature has tried over the years to take this out of our hands, the municipality's hands, and put it into the developers. So we're actually in a good space right now because we actually fight that. It's a balance, Ryan, because sometimes when you go around, then the irrigation company now has a lot more ditch to manage and stuff. So we work together with staff, and we literally do this all the time. So,
Which is, I'm great
Yep.
with what I want to, I'm not,
We're-
I
we're
could give
prote-
two rips about the developer, frankly,
Yep.
which is ironic because of what I do. But I'm curious, I want to make sure that the farmer gets his water, can continue to be.
I'm the guy that's worrying
Right.
about that and working with Sam's staff, they are too. We do not short anybody, we make them whole. As an example, some of those ditches, we actually have to put perforated pipe because there's water coming up at, point A where it comes in the
Increase it,
field.
yeah.
And so you have to
Halfway
put
through the
perforated,
40
yeah,
acres, there's a spring.
a spring. So you pipe that and everyone's unique, and where we're sitting is a good place.
Okay. So we're testing it, and we know before.
I've
and
actually
after.
testified at the state capitol against some of the things the legislature's tried to do to take it out of the municipalities and the irrigation company's hands. So,
Okay, I do have a language question. This is just for clarification. This is D of what? I don't know. I'm looking at the red lines, so it's D. And section 3 of D says runoff rates from one lot to another shall not exceed pre-existing conditions. 100-year historical runoff flow rates or increase in such a manner that may unreasonably unnecessarily cause greater harm than before. And then 4 says, all property owners shall manage and maintain both irrigation and stormwater on their own property to prevent any runoff. So those two, the language to me seemed like they were contradictory because the number 3 was, they have to keep it the same that it's always been, and number 4 is preventing all runoff.
So, like in a case like this is going to be more or less in your hillside type developments where you might have a home, you're at the bottom of the hillside. There's naturally been some water coming off that hillside. Now you have someone that's going to come and build on top. What we're saying is we're going to be okay with that water because the homeowner down below has already had that runoff in the past. It's just now that there's a home on top, we want to make sure that homeowner doesn't have downspouts and adding more to that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there's got to be an expectation that, hey, if you're living in certain areas, BLM land, city land or whatnot, there probably has been some runoff and you've probably mitigated and dealt with it over the years, but now you have someone new, it's improved and now they've added some impervious surface and now you're creating an increase. What we're saying is that now has to be mitigated. You can't just let it keep going down that natural path. It more or less happens on private developments, it's between homeowners, it's hillside developments, one lot's higher than the other, and that's where we have these types of issues.
Can I ask another question on that then? So does the city's requirement then, we go put in a road that's now the city's road, in the event of 20 years from now, we have a 100-year flood. In most cases, my experience is that a 100-year flood happens about every 5 years, but, which is kind of ironic. But in Orem specifically, there's one that you might be familiar with that's right on the border of Orem and Linden. And the road coming from Orem into Linden directs water into a residence there. But the residence is in Linden, and therefore Orem City's property, or their onerous, I guess, their responsibility ends at the city's property boundary. And I guess that's what I'm concerned about, is making sure that that we're living up to that same standard, so that we don't have, we're not just throwing it back on a resident who has had their house there forever. It's like, well, that's not my problem. That's the city. That's a 100-year storm. The 100-year storm happens every 5 years. It becomes no longer a 100-year storm. Does that make sense? I'm just trying to make sure that we're going to be held to that same standard.
Right. We are, and that's
We
why
are.
we have some nuisance flooding areas. We're putting together projects so we can go ahead and manage and maintain a 10 to 25-year event. That's what our insurance is, and that's what we're held to, and we have to do the same thing. In a 100-year event, what we've typically done with development, whether it's commercial or residential, if it's a detention facility, we go ahead and we have a basin that can handle a 25-year event, but the 100-year event, we're asking them to go ahead and have their site as such, so it goes out to our roadways, and then our roads can go ahead with sidewalk, curb and gutter. Some places don't have curb and gutter here, but we try and convey that in our roadway. And then in a 100-year event, it's pretty much an act of God, and we're doing what we can to mitigate that. There probably is going to be some property damage, but the ones that we have to be accountable for are the 10 and 25-year events. And that's what we build our systems to, our inlets, our pipes, our basins. We maximize. Oh, sorry, I got to be done.
That was my problem. I keep asking questions.
But we do have a standard that we have to design it to, but we can't design to a 100-year event, because we would have 6-foot diameter pipe at the beginning of the system, and we wouldn't have any room for anything else. But yes, to your point, we are held to the same standard.
Ryan, great examples, First East. So UDOT is in there doing stormwater mitigation. Their original plan 5 years ago was to pipe all of that all the way down the bottom of the hill, and at Third North, put it in a pipe and run it all the way down First East, all the way to Greenwood, and put it in the river. What they didn't realize is they were actually running it into an old irrigation line that was actually redwood staved pipe down at State Street. And so they, first plan come up and they threw it up, and city engineer at the time and myself met with them and said, no, this is not stormwater. And we had to help them realize that they had to handle it another way. So that is all sumped now. That's how they're handling that, is they're putting in those great big sumps, because they were trying to put it in a 100-year-old ditch. And so, yeah, we are held to the same standard. UDOT was held to that standard. That's why that project's 4 years in the making, is because we had to come up with other options.
And part of this too, when we talk about the geotech and asking for those bore logs, because if the site doesn't have storm drain pipe, and they are going to put in sumps, we want to make sure the sumps are sized and there's enough on site accordingly to handle the right storm event too. Just as a side note, that's why that's in there too, because some areas can perk water better, a lot better than others.
Yep.
So we want to make sure sites are balanced and they can handle the water.
Sorry, I want to go back a little bit to what I was asking earlier, because I conceptually understand exactly what you're saying, and that's why this is a language question, because you're adding in 4. You had 3 before that says, hey, you have to keep it the way it was always, and 4 says, in my mind, contradictorily, you have to keep everything on. So they're like 2 different things.
Yeah, and I see that, and we can look to go ahead and modify that. I think there has to be an understanding, though, for people to realize that there is going to be a certain amount of runoff that was a pre-existing condition.
Totally agree. What I'm thinking of is somebody a developer or somebody coming in, reading this, and justifying whatever they're doing by...
3 is contradictory to 4, so I was going off of 3, not off of 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can do what we can to clarify that.
I guess I don't see them as that contradictory, because there are options. I've run into both options. When there is Sam's point of, if they put more impervious surface that directs more runoff than comes down, then they can't do that. But there is certain spots in the cities that there is historic runoff that comes down, and guess what? Where do they go? They go in the ditches and we handle them, and that's the way it's been. But you can't, the city can't build a road and put more in, just like UDOT tried to put it into there. They had to realize they had another way to handle it. I really like 4 though, because that is specific irrigation and stormwater in their property. It doesn't mean the historic, it means any additional, and that's how I read that, as
Is
the
there a way to
additional.
add that verbiage about being additional?
Should we-
So I don't
Well,
know.
or we could just, I'm fine just passing it like it is, and then if you have problems with it, we can change it. I just know that, I don't
You
know
know
if I
what,
have
it's-
problems with, I don't know who's gonna go in and dive through the hundreds of pages of stormwater stuff. I just know that in general, our code, we have had that happen before, where we're like, ah, man.
Yeah. You know, I would say this, I think it's unique, and we look at it with different eyes. We have different questions, and we need to be resolved in the fact that we feel like it. So, I mean, between everybody here, is this language that you like? Do you feel like?
I do. I feel-
Do you feel like pulling one away compromises it in some respect? Sorry.
Yeah, I think pulling 3 off, because there are areas in the city that we do have that historic, and it's been handled and it goes into our storm drains. I think pulling that off would put more onto the hands of the property owners, because it historically has been that direction. But then 3, you've got to manage what you have on there. I don't see them as contradictory, Sam. Maybe I'm.
What do you think, Sam?
They're not for me, but that's because when I look at things, if we have hillsides and it looks like there's a pre-existing condition, we also do what we can to make sure the plats have what they call a drainage, a cross drainage easement, so people understand that, hey, you're next to this runoff area, please don't, I know you might want this to be built up or whatever, but keep it open and let this water flow, because if you don't, you're gonna create kind of a dam area. And I wanna say we even have something like that down in the south part of town, where I think there is an easement, and it gets down to a certain yard, and then it just backs up, and then it fills them up, and
Yep.
I don't know what language you'd
put in for.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Pre-existing, is there a way to,
So-
I don't think it's a change.
Pre-existing would be before on 3 with historical, wouldn't it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The addition of, or something that would identify 4 as being specific to new impervious surfaces or something like that. I don't,
Well, like I said, maybe we just pass it, and then if it's a problem.
I think it's a valid comment.
No,
Very much so.
Could we add?
Maybe I look at it in different eyes because I deal with it all the time, but Stacy, you have a point.
Could we add, and this wouldn't be necessarily a substantive change, but, so, subject to subsection D3, we add that as an introductory clause to subsection 4. All property owners shall manage and maintain both irrigation and stormwater on their property to prevent any runoff from flowing onto adjacent parcels and lots. If we have them hooked together, I don't want to change the intent of it, Sam, but that would make 4 dependent on being something different than 3.
And there's also the thing that if water people understand this,
Yeah,
Great
yeah,
point.
then it's
totally.
not critical
Then
for us to
yeah,
understand
same, that's,
as the layman.
yeah, but I mean, to your point, it's the layman that comes in and
Yeah.
they interface with us, and it might be easier to clarify if there's a different way.
I don't mind Heather's change.
Do we do 4, where we've got, all property owners shall manage and maintain both irrigation and stormwater on their own property, prevent any new runoff from flowing into adjacent lots and parcels? Because I still have ditches that it's called a tailwater ditch off of your property, and I have to keep those open through lots and through town, because I've got a water user up here. And historically,
Has to be able
that's
to
their
allow it to
tailwater,
tell it
so
all.
I have to maintain that tailwater.
which, I love it. I love we're protecting that. And I think
Same.
that's the intent, is
Yeah.
that
Yep.
we don't, and so, I don't disagree, having some sort of a, I'm not the wordsmith to come up with it, but,
well,
I'm not-
pursuant to section 3, isn't that what you said?
yeah.
Subject to.
Yeah, subject
Okay,
to.
that works.
Okay, yeah,
There.
that's, I think we do that. That's, I think.
I think it brings clarity, for sure. I mean, I think it still
A
accomplishes what we
little
need.
more.
And-
Yeah.
Okay. All right, anybody,
So
I-
adding
Accept the
the term
motion.
subject to
Where are we going to add the subject to on,
in
I
number
think I got it.
in number 4?
Yeah, I move to adopt the ordinance approving the code text amendment, amending section 13.94.040 titled Stormwater System Design and Management Standards, in addition to adding the verbiage in section D4, the words subject to section 3. With instructions to the city recorder to withhold publication of the ordinance subject to all conditions identified in the public record of the March 19th Planning Commission meeting, except for the, do I need to say that? Except for
I think so.
the verbiage that
Yeah.
was voted on by the Planning Commission.
I think that clarifies the record.
Okay.
okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Carroll.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tater. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Hunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Tater.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly at 4 a.m. in Germany. Are you still there?
Aye.
Thank you very much. It's amazing.
He's like,
Okay.
I don't care about stormwater at 3 a.m.
Item number 3 is a review and action on a resolution approving the fiscal year 2026 general fee schedule. This is, we brought this into work session. I think there was some small modifications. Is there any questions that we have for staff?
I got one. I talked to Dave Bunker about this. I don't know that we need to change. When we were talking about our boat harbor fees and schedules, I went out and looked at Utah State Park in Provo, because there's, on our side, there's 3. There's, State Park in Provo, there's Linden Marina, and there's us. And Linden Marina has similar, based upon the website, which is 2023, I don't know if they've changed it. Utah Lake State Park has a $20 boat launch fee. So we just put a whole lot of money into this facility out there and made it really nice. I'm trying to balance off the difference between residents and non-residents. There's only a little difference between residents and non-residents, like $80 for a yearly pass and $100 for a non-resident pass. Councilmember Hunter made a good comment when we were talking. Anytime you go out on a boat, you put a couple $100 worth of gas in it, is that $10 really the difference between $10 and $20? I just want to make sure that we're appropriate fees for a brand new facility, and we're stuck with the same fees.
And, sorry.
No, go ahead, Ryan.
I appreciate you bringing it up, because it just goes back to a similar kind of conversation I've had about the rec center. I love keeping our residence fee low, but if I'm not a resident of American Fork and I'm coming to American Fork to use a brand-new facility that residents in American Fork paid for, I do expect that residents get a discount. And when it's almost imperceptible, an annual difference of $20, it's like, I mean, that literally is less than they spend at the Maverick gas station on the way there,
Buying munchies.
Buying, yeah, just on their nibs and soda pop, I mean, it's just, so nibs are the best ones. Nibs are great.
Yeah, they
Everyone
are.
will thank me. Next time you go on a road trip, you're gonna get nibs and put peanuts in your Dr. Pepper and you'll love it.
So where?
I'm just saying,
I know-
I would be in favor of an increase on a
Let-
non-resident pass.
Okay. So let's pick a number. I can absolutely agree with that. Where do we want?
160. It's double.
He's a boat guy right there.
For an
It's
annual.
an annual pass.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
annual. That's
For
what
an
I'm saying.
annual
It's
pass.
literally,
What about daily pass? There's
How
no,
about daily pass?
there's no difference.
When they're right there, no, there's a difference.
Oh.
No, it's $10.
It's $10
for boat. He's
for
talking
both?
about the boat
Yep.
launch.
Boat
yeah.
launch is
Oh, yeah,
$10.
no, yeah, we need to have a non-resident, fee on there. Sorry, I thought we
What do you
had,
think Derek and David?
Nope.
Any
sorry, I
thoughts
thought we
on
had the
this?
season pass.
Well, let's just kind of, just so a consensus, do you feel like 160, does everybody feel good about that?
I'd be fine with that.
I do,
I'm-
I do.
Derek's one
Derek's,
concern with Derek, and I just would ask, Mayor, is how hard is it? So we're saying, yeah, it's a resident or non-resident. On an annual level, you gotta come in and prove you're a resident to get that price. if I'm running the booth down there, I got 50 people in line trying to get through to launch their boat, and I'm over here asking, I just am wondering how the logistics of asking resident versus non-resident, maybe it's just a flat $15 for
License or-
everyone. Yeah, maybe you're, I don't know.
The annual, we check it on the back end, we kind of give them, trust them on the front end, then we check it. The daily would be hard.
That's
to
what I was
get
worried
verification
about.
on
Okay,
every
good
person
clarification.
that comes through. So that one would be more difficult. We'd spend more time chasing it down than we would
Okay.
collect.
And I think too, I mean, let's, the boat harbor, we basically just matched a whole lot of grants. We used a little bit of park tax in the back end of it, but it's a great thing to have in our city, so, we benefit from it, and I think you're right. So, we're talking passes, is everybody
I'd
comfortable
love
with?
to know what other annual passes are for other marinas before we
That,
just
that
arbitrarily.
that point right there is probably pretty critical that we discuss right now, because if we
they'll just all go
overprice,
to-
right, and so
Yeah.
we're trying to utilize the capacity of the boat harbor down there, right? We don't want to make it
We just gotta make.
out of realm, so that people just bypass us and go down to some other marina, and we don't fill our, our spots there. And Derek, maybe you have a better idea on this, but I do think that the non-resident rate should be higher than the resident rate, but we need to be careful that we're not disadvantaging our boat harbor and people just don't even come because they can go over to Linden or to Saratoga.
I
So-
mean, to that point, this was given to us by a grant, so it shouldn't matter, because we're using,
But we do have,
But we have staff there.
but we have staff there, so.
Mayor, I promise you, well, I guess I can't go that far. I promise you, I do not go to a boat harbor based on the fee. If I'm bouncing between $10 and $20, I'm going to the boat harbor that doesn't jack my trailer up when I'm trying to go down on a thing like this versus American Fork that's like this, that smoothly drives you, or how difficult or how much of a hassle it is to pull your boat in and out or get your trailer back down in there. That meager additional $20 is not gonna say, that's it, American Fork's lost my business, I'm going to London. Or I'm gonna go over to Saratoga and get ate up by skeeters. I mean, it's just not gonna do it, I promise you.
Fair enough.
So,
I like the idea of just not buggering up the poor bugger running the booth.
Yeah.
As we said that, I
Yeah.
thought that's
season.
No, there's times in it, they're lined up.
I mean, they're doing their best just to get people to come through and not run in anyway.
That's a tough entrance too, 'cause
Yeah.
you're in, you're not turning around there, you're done.
So I would be in favor of a flat fee, maybe it's 15 across the board. That way and then and then it's, you know how I feel. I feel like we build pickleball and boat harbors for everybody in the county, and swimming pools, but, anything we can do to
Libraries.
benefit.
Mayor, just maybe, so Linden is $100 flat rate for a season, and Saratoga is 50 for a resident, 75 for a non-resident. So we did try to go a little above Saratoga. Linden's the closest to us, so we kind of tried to play that balancing game that David was mentioning, so.
Okay, well, I think we're to the point where, I'll just say, 160? Do we feel like
I
there's?
personally am against that because I do feel like we would want to have some of the revenues from people coming in. Maybe it'd be helpful to know if we have revenues that cover anything. If it's a moot point, maybe we just,
Great point.
like,
I mean, how many annual passes we're over bickering over?
No, it's.
it's like
20 bucks a
10
year.
people have annual passes and it's like, I don't
No,
care.
we're
but-
gonna be 60 to 75.
Annual pass holders,
Annual pass
do you know just off the cuff, what percentage of those might be resident?
First
versus
2 weeks, we
non?
were 80-20, similar. to-
80 resident,
80
20 non?
resident, 20%, 80% were resident. I thought it was gonna be higher non-resident, but it was only about.
That's
20%.
interesting,
So,
so if we're already higher, then I would be in favor of lowering the resident down and not necessarily increasing the non-resident. I want the residents to get a benefit, that's what all I care about. So then I would say 60, I would do 60 and 100. That's
75.
75 and 125.
Hey,
So-
Boom!
I'm not gonna make a motion.
All I'm saying is I want our residents to benefit from being the resident and pay the taxes to get that thing
Okay.
put in.
You know what? I think the best way we can do this, somebody make. a
Mayor, I'd
motion.
make a motion that we
That's it.
approve,
The fee schedule.
the tax fee schedule with the change to the Boat Harbor, line number 798, 799, season pass for resident and non-resident, to $75 a year for the resident and $125 a year for the non-resident.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Hunter,
Second.
second by Councilmember John. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Holly?
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor?
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter?
Aye.
Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember John?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 4 is the consideration and action to enter into a, oh, no, it's not. I'm skipping one.
Dang it.
Number 3 is,
No,
yeah, we're for.
That is.
Okay. Consideration and action to enter into a closed session to discuss items described in Utah State Code 52-4-204 and 52-4-05. We are going to talk about real estate. And before a motion is made, let me just explain how we do this. We are going to meet downstairs, and we will conduct a closed session. At the close of that meeting, we will open the door and we will convene the closure of our council meeting from downstairs. So with that being said,
So moved, Mayor.
you know, this is a roll call vote, so I have a motion by Councilmember Taylor, second by Councilmember Hunter. Roll call vote, Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember John.
Aye.
Councilmember Holly.
Aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Hunter.
aye.
Okay, we're going to move downstairs.
Hey, pickleball starts at 6 a.m. in the morning.
They've already sent 7 texts.
Sweet.
A little bit of sausage's made, but it's just the way it is.
Hey, thanks for hanging out for the whole meeting. That was fun.